difference. And everybody, we are back for another Monday night with the Five Guys on Live. We have a very full show with some really great topics, and we want to do justice to each of tonight's topics. Gentlemen, I hope that everyone is well. We are going to dive right into the dish, starting off with you, Darius, and our very first topic. As many of us know, if you live in the city of Atlanta, in the state of Georgia, or if you follow anything around urban, major, contemporary news, you know that Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms of Atlanta will only conclude her term up until January and will not be seeking re-election. Darius, give us some insight.
That's right. We heard
it. Darius, you have some bad background. Everybody else mute.
Is it okay now? Shall I proceed? All right. So as you all know, Keisha Lance Bottoms went viral as she announced her bid for mayor, and as she won, everyone coined that Atlanta had a mayor named Keisha, and Black Girl Magic became realized in our city. But as the term has progressed, we have seen the hard work that she has done to keep the people in Atlanta both happy and also, thank you, Candace, to keep us happy and safe, but to also hold us accountable for some of the things that we've done over the course of the pandemic in terms of mask mandates and some of the things that she's had to deal with in terms of going toe-to-toe with the governor, in terms of the Black Lives Matter protests and the statements that she's had to make in terms of telling us to take our tails home. So we've had the ups and the downs, the ins and the outs, and now we're left in a very major crisis in terms of crime in the city. And so I think that as a result of the full gamut of things that our mayor has had to tackle over this term, she's made the decision to not return or to not run again as mayor of Atlanta. So she had a press conference to talk about this, which she said it's time simply for her to pass the baton. So guys, what do y'all think about the timing of this announcement? I know she just had a major fundraiser. I think President Joe Biden was one of the major voices of that fundraiser. She raised a whole lot of money, and now she's announcing that she's going to pull out and she's not going to run for mayor. What do you guys think?
For over $500,000, it was the largest single fundraiser for any mayoral candidate in Atlanta history, and it was virtual. So
I think it puts us in an interesting position in place. Everyone knows it, and I've been critical in aspects of Keisha's retains to certain aspects, but I will say that the fact that she is not running for re-election, I'm sure I'm like many other people who said, listen, it's got to be something else. I'm not sure what it is, and that's not really the focus right now. I think the focus needs to be, though, we are at a crucial time because we don't have, even though we have an announced candidate in Felicia Moore, but outside of Felicia Moore, we don't have a gambit of individuals who can potentially take on the responsibility and role to be mayor. And my concern that we run into is a couple of years ago when Keisha then ran, there were multiples of individuals that we looked at and say, okay, we can see that as mayor, we see that as mayor, see that as mayor. We unfortunately don't really have anybody that we can pinpoint right now and say that we have somebody who can actually be the mayor of this major metropolitan city. And I think that began to speak to the volumes of people who, where are these people where are these elders or where are these individuals who are cultivating and helping, as we talked about, that, becoming irrelevant in certain positions? Where do we have people who are actually helping people, set the next generation of leaders? Because there should be no reason why we have this huge gap, not knowing who can be the next person to run this city. So although I don't feel happy that she's leaving, I'm also concerned where the city is actually going to go, because I don't know if there's enough people ready to take on this responsibility.
I think you make some really great points, Dr. Pickett, in there. And I think that was a really good point. Candace, I don't know. I made a video a little bit earlier. It's on Facebook as well as Instagram that gives you my insight. I think that when you look at what happened this past summer in the city of Atlanta, we had, like every major United States city, we had large protests around the killing of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. And our mayor, as Darius said in the beginning, got on television and told residents of Atlanta to go home, to avoid being out past curfew, to definitely not loot, and to riot. We then had two young people who attend the AUC, one, I think, a student at Morehouse and one a student at Spelman, get tased by the police, overly zealous police officers, and then turn right around June the 9th and 10th, we had the shooting death of Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta. Mayor Bottoms, between the riots around George Floyd and the killing of Rayshard Brooks, faced a lot of scrutiny and attacks from the Black community in Atlanta. Black people in Atlanta were really unhappy with her, and they were angry, and they were very vocal. A section of them. There was, to be fair, a huge portion of people that were not angry. I know that I came on this platform when it was just Rodney and I, the two of us, and I talked about, how much I love Keisha Lance Bottoms as a mayor. I defended her. I said that her calls for a strengthened police department that would do a different kind of work was something that I agreed with, because I've never advocated for the defunding of the police in that traditional sense. But most people didn't agree with that. And I took heat on it on social media, and so did Mayor Bottoms. So when Rayshard Brooks was killed, she took immediate action, unlike any other mayor in the United States of America. Rayshard Brooks was killed on a Friday. He was terminated on Monday. That was less than 48 hours, and she took action. Well, last week, Candace, as we all know, Officer Rolfe, who was the officer who fired the killing shot, was reinstated. It was determined that he did not have due process. Both Paul Howard, former DA in Fulton County, took the hit for that, and now I believe that Mayor Bottoms took the hit for that. I think what it comes down to is she realizes that she is unlikely to win in a very strong primary field, although she said that is not the case. I do believe she could win, but I do think that probably factored into it. When you're being continuously misaligned by both communities, so she could not make either sets of people happy. All lives matter, not happy. Black lives matter, not happy. Multiple factions in Atlanta, not happy. Why would you stay the course? Personally, I feel as though she's done her due diligence. She served her time to the city of Atlanta, and if she wants to move on, I wish her nothing but the best. I know that her future will continue to be bright. My question and my worry is this: will the future of Atlanta still be bright? That is what worries me. DeAndre, when you talk about that field, even though Felicia, it's two people who have declared their candidacy. Councilwoman Felicia, but I don't know the other person. I forget his name. But it is being rumored that perhaps Jason Carter is going to run. It is being rumored that Councilman Antonio Brown, who we talked about on this platform also when it was just riding out, that he may run. It's also being discussed that perhaps former mayor of Atlanta, Kasim Reed, will run. So people are probably going to get out there, but the question is, are they going to do what Mayor Bottoms has been able to do? And, that's the kind of question for everybody. Anything else on that?
Yeah, I think that Keisha probably just tired. I think that these past 4 or 5 years have been a huge turbulent roller coaster for her. And all I can remember was after I think the Rayshard Brooks killing was when that Black mama found her address and pulled up at her house. It was like, come outside, Keisha. Where you at, Keisha? Come outside. I would have left then. I ain't running. You ain't about to pull up to my house. No, I would have been out the next day. I'm not available to be mayor anymore. Y'all are crazy. You feel what I'm saying? So, but I definitely agree with you, Zach. I think that she has done a groundbreaking job for the city. Of course, her being from FAMU, and regardless of I guess her not having this title anymore, I think she's still going to be an asset and very instrumental to the Democratic Party, especially of Georgia, yet alone the entire nation. And yeah, I think we should definitely keep our eye out. But one thing that I will say, I feel that even as a politician, I think at certain moments you should know when it's time to pull away and time to refresh yourself, right? When it's time to get back to the streets, keep your relatability, so on and so forth. I think a lot of politicians, when they keep these seats for decades on decades, they lose their touch. And they become just mundane and immune and accustomed to just the policy of it all and the political theater of it all, and you just lose your initial fire and your initial purpose. And maybe that's something that she wants to protect, the integrity of what it means to be a mayor and the integrity of working for the people instead of just upholding a position and then just it becoming a cycle, and then you're bored and you're, again, like I said, just losing your relatability. So yeah, hats off to Mayor Keisha, and I'm sure we're going to definitely see her again like soon. I'm sure of that.
To kind of piggyback off what you said, Vince, I think she's just mentally tired from it. And I think she has some things coming up in the future that she wants to do. And I think it's still going to involve the city of Atlanta, but I just think she wants to do something bigger and better. I think she's done what she could do as a mayor, and a lot of times the governor did over kind of like trump those things that she wanted to do, but I think she did the best that she could do as far as, as being a mayor. And I just think she has something else coming up.
I think I agree with both of you gentlemen. I do believe, again, that she is going to move forward with a phenomenal career. I want to say, I think everyone focuses in on this moment, and we really are very hyper aware of last year this time. But let's not forget, Atlanta is a city that is fighting gentrification on multiple levels. And a lot of people are going to be angry at where our city is in regards to the amount of livable spaces in the city for people who make a living wage or below a living wage, to be fair and honest. But Mayor Bottoms actually fought so hard to keep Atlanta, investing ensuring and gathering over $500 million being dedicated to affordable housing in the city of Atlanta. To me, that will be her greatest accomplishments. I say that because I know there have been mayors in this city. I will say their names. Zachary Kirk believes that Shirley Franklin would not have done that. Zachary Kirk believes Kasim Reed did not do that. Not at the level that Mayor Bottoms was able to do. Additionally, when you look at how she handled the pandemic, I think it was a world-class effort. She fought tooth and nail to protect our city from the actions and the policies of Governor Brian Kemp, who only wanted to hold this city back. Now, she wasn't able to supersede him, but she stood in the gap for as long as she could, and she raised national awareness and brought national attention to the dirty politics that man played. Additionally, when you look at how cities have used funds given to them by COVID-19, Mayor Bottoms did an amazing job of feeding people that needed to be fed, of making sure people had jobs, needed to have jobs, and of maintaining the infrastructure of our city during the COVID-19 pandemic. Not to mention the fact that when twice impeached, one-term President Donald Trump had ICE agents go into the homes of people and rip parents out, put kids in cages. Mayor Bottoms did not allow that to happen in Atlanta. She also blocked those issues with her executive orders. And she made sure that we had a world-class Super Bowl in this city. All of that falls under her tenure. So I'm happy to give this queen her flowers right here and right now, because this is a Black woman I love, adore, and greatly respect.
And it's a hard job. And especially that being heightened by the coronavirus pandemic, as well as the Black Lives Matter protests that have been going on. So it's a hard job across the nation for any mayor in any city. And I don't think that the answer is to not be critical of the job that our mayor does. We can be critical and be supportive at the same time. And so one thing that I will say about Mayor Bottoms is that for people who are politically astute or who care about things like that, you might be able to do it, but most people will not be able to name a mayor of a random city in the United States of America. Everyone in America knows that Keisha Lance Bottoms is the mayor of the city of Atlanta. Her name transcends her position. She is now a figure that will be remembered for years to come, and her legacy will live on forever. And I think that like many people say, you should leave while you're on top. So I do think that this is a prime time for her to explore some other avenues that she can use her newfound platform and her newfound influence to work in other ways, similar to the way that Stacey Abrams did once she had the governor election stole from her. I've seen a lot of people speculate that Mayor Bottoms will run for governor of Georgia. I'm not sure if that's in the cards for her at all, but I do think that she will continue to influence the culture as well as politics in the United States for years to come. So kudos to her, and we love you.
One of the things I will say that I can't put all on Mayor Bottoms, unfortunately, she fell into the trap that many mayors since Shirley Franklin. I think Bill Campbell was the last mayor to, I think, have been able to have some assistance with this. The next mayor coming into this city, one of the main issues they have to do is they have to find a better way to work with the Atlanta public schools. They have to find a better way to work with that institution because of the fact that the relationship that the city council and the mayor has with the city as with the schools, particularly as it pertains around funding and financial, connections and things of that nature. They have to find a better way because of the fact there's issues still being held up that the city of the Atlanta public schools, there's funding that these kids are still not getting because the city council and the mayor's office cannot get it right and have great communication with the Atlanta public schools. So you can't have a piss poor educational system with your name on it and you're not right. So we still got to make sure that this next mayor that comes in here, when they go in there, that be something that they're looking at. And so I can't fully put that on Keisha. Right. I just wish that more mayors, when they get in there, think about all other things like the things that have their name on it. And so I think the next mayor needs to make that a topic that they really focus on.
And hopefully they'll have a good track record of managing funds that don't belong to them.
Very much so.
You know what? I think that you're right, and I think that's key. When you talk about, and hello, Rodney, welcome. I spoke you up. I was talking about this topic about mayor and some things that we discussed in the very beginning, in the early iterations of Five Guys when it was just two guys. Glad that you could join us tonight. So when you talk about managing money, a number of young people are now going to have hopefully more money to manage because they have been admitted to the NFL via the NFL draft. This was a huge television event that people watched and gave lots of acclaim to and hyped up, and people watched and they loved it. They had so much to say. But unfortunately, for a number of students who attended historically Black colleges and universities, they didn't have a lot to say because they were not admitted into this year's draft. Vince, go ahead, my friend, and tell us about it.
Correct. So one of our greatest American football players of all time, Deion Sanders, who is now the coach at an HBCU, Jackson State University in Mississippi, recently took to Twitter because he was extremely frustrated with how the draft basically played out. I'm going to quickly read you his tweet. And we have the audacity to hate on one another while our kids are being neglected and rejected. I witnessed a multitude of kids that we played against that were more than qualified to be drafted. My prayers are that this won't ever happen again. Get your knife out my back and fight with me, not against me. There were 259 picks in the 2021 #NFL draft. Not a single draft pick featured a player from an HBCU. So I definitely wanted to pose this question to you guys. We know that the NFL has just been sitting in this not good space with our community between the Colin Kaepernick situation, the national anthem, just everything. How do you all feel in terms of just our players being represented, our HBCU players being represented with the NFL? Do you feel like we should sort of battle for inclusion in this? Is this like a major deal, or should we sort of, okay, if they're not going to acknowledge us in this, realm of things, should we start our own league? Should we just continue to do our own thing or what have you on the other side? And some other stats that I also wanted to point out to you all. This is the 9th time since 2000 that a graduate from an HBCU has been undrafted. And also 70% of the NFL players are Black in 2018, 58.9% of the NFL players are black in 2019, and 57.5% in 2020. So considering that we still make up majority of the league, how much stake should we have in just this representation with our HBCUs and just, us being a community of color?
I'm just gonna make a quick statement about it. It's probably not gonna be the popular statement, but I'm gonna make it anyway. I'm gonna simply say is it's kind of hard to expect people to show us support and support us when we don't support ourselves. The fact of the matter is that we don't fully support our own HBCUs. So how do you expect the NFL and other people to support it? We have to beg people to give money to our HBCUs. We have to beg people to give to the financial programs. We have to beg people to send their kids to HBCUs. So if we don't take enough pride in our own institutions and our own historical Black college universities, how do we expect the NFL to even care anything about us? And so, though I don't think it's right, we have to look at ourselves and say, at the same time, what kind of support are we also putting there to make sure that we have competitive programs and that we're also, we're not having these conversations and begging for inclusion. So as much as I want to say we have to, fight for it, I'm sorry. We have to start showing more support within ourselves before we start reaching outward and asking others to accept us too.
I mean, I think I agree with you, Dr. P. I agree with you, DeAndre, but it also works both ways. And so I've never been athletically inclined, but my family is a family of sports fanatics, athletes. Everyone in my family who went to college went on a athletic scholarship. And for a lot of them, the conversation was always, if I go to an HBCU on an athletic scholarship, will I even have a chance to be considered for the NFL? Or will I even have a chance to be considered for the NBA? And so I think a lot of times athletes end up going to these predominantly white institutions, these D1 institutions, and there are a lot of D1 institutions that are HBCUs, but they don't get the same attention in their sports programs as a UGA would, or as a U of F or a Florida State University would get. And so you end up having to make a choice. Do I want to be a part of a rich legacy of having gone to a HBCU, or do I want the opportunity to be considered by the NFL and the NBA? And so it goes both ways. And so I do agree with you to some extent, but athletes, for the most part, that is their thing. Like, this is what's going to pull me out of the hood. This is what's going to help me provide for my family. And can I afford to go to a HBCU at the risk of not making it to the big league and being able to make these massive amounts of money? And for me, I still don't support the NFL. I really feel like it's modern day slavery. They got these old white men running these franchises, and they profit off the backs of these, what did you say, Vince? 70% Black people running around hitting each other for $1, ending up with all kinds of diseases and ailments because they've been impacted so much. But I don't like it, but I would never take that opportunity away from people who have dedicated their lives to the sports, because a lot of people in my family have done that.
I agree with that, Darius. I just think it goes back to the statement of, I at one point in time, and Zach is an alumnus of the institution, I taught at Mississippi State University, and I know the booster clubs that they have, and I know the money is given. I know what Ole Miss gives and things of that nature. And the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, they take pride in those institutions. First of all, we really only go to the games for the bands. We don't go for the football team. We go for the band. So
our teams aren't really that good for the most part. And
because of the fact that we don't put some of the same emphasis. So if it go based on the argument that you said, that most of the kids will go to a PWI because that's where they're going to get their shine, that's where they're going to get seen, then maybe we have to start looking at, okay, how do we start now putting funding into those programs?
Absolutely.
Like the things that, and do things like that Deion Sanders is doing, going back to those institutions. He went back to Jackson State. He's putting, so now we have to take accountability and say, listen, he went back to Jackson State. And so, So what about some of these other retired Black football players go to some of these HBCUs, and now you start bringing notoriety to these institutions. Jackson State got seen because Deion Sanders went back to Jackson State.
Absolutely.
So now what about some of these retired individuals? Instead of trying to go to these PWIs, how about you go back to your HBCUs so you can start bringing money into these institutions? So then people will start saying, now we have a place to put our funding because we got a name. So that's an idea.
And like I said,
just to clarify, Deion Sanders is not a graduate of Jackson State.
No, I'm saying he went to Jackson State.
Yeah.
Went back to an HBCU. So I was saying he went to Jackson State. No,
he went to Florida State.
My younger brother is an All-American high jumper, top 10 in the nation, Junior Olympics, you name it, he's done it. He has every medal you can think of, like Mama Joy said about the diamonds. But he went to Bethune-Cookman for undergrad. And his first year, we had to take out a loan in order for him to make it through that year. Of course, everything else was covered. But after he graduated, he still had a year of eligibility. Florida State asked him to come and jump for them. They said they would pay for his master's program, a 2-year master's program they would pay for after he jumped for 1 year. And when you go and see the difference in the facilities, the support you receive, the academic support through tutorials and through having this, just the program is so much more expensive because of the boosters. Whereas he might have had to pay for certain things at Bethune-Cookman, Florida State was making sure that he had money to, blow or to have an apartment, whatever it was that he needed, he had it and it was taken care of. And so it's hard to make that argument for people coming from impoverished communities that they should take the loan and go to the HBCU as opposed to going to the Florida State University, mama, that they're going to lay out the red carpet literally and make sure that, everything is taken care of. So like I said, it's just a double-edged thing. Like, you damn if you do, you damn if you don't.
And like Valerie says, it's an us issue, not a them issue at the moment for a lot of people. Any other thoughts on this, gentleman? If not, we'll roll over into we have a few, just one on the comments because we did miss some comments earlier because we were transitioning. So I want to honor as many as we can in this time. How can we expect others to love us when we show no love for ourselves? And that's a good point, but it's also, it's not just that simple, right? There are 64 historically Black colleges and universities of a certain size in the United States of America. So where does the money go? Do we give to the United New York College Fund? Like, where will we put our money if we were going to make an investment? As a non-graduate of an HBCU, where would I put my money, right? So would I put my money and give and donate to my institution that gave me 2 degrees, or would I give it to a historically Black college because I'm Black? Those are issues that also go along with this. So, it becomes, kind of a more, it's more of a complicated issue. Now, I personally, Zachary Kirk, do give to an HBCU because it graduated a number of people I love and care about. I do not give a lot of money to Mississippi State because I gave them a lot of money when I got my degree. But that's also a mentality that a lot of people have when it comes to donating and giving. I do believe that the onus falls on people who, like Deion Sanders, has made a commitment to a Jackson State University, who's getting a check from Jackson State University to build that program. It would be ideal if we, like Derek said a little bit earlier, have more of our retired athletes make those kinds of decisions and commitments to our schools. From there, is there anything else? If not, from there, DeAndre, I know that we have some new updates surrounding this gentleman right here. The notorious, the infamous, the criminally convicted Derek Chauvin. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so we all know and we all saw that Derek Chauvin was found guilty on all 3 counts a few weeks ago in reference to the killing and the ruthless killing of George Floyd. And of course, in the most recent of times, as last week, Attorney General Garland has made the decision to now seek federal charges for the heinous crimes that he committed against Derek Chauvin, but also he's charging the 3 officers who were also there as well. The reason why this for me is so important, and I think we definitely wanted to bring this to light today, is because last week we had conversations around, where are we as it pertains to our police, policing, and where is it around as our justice department, our justice system, and are we making strides? How can we fix it? How can we provide resolutions? And I wanted to kind of bring a couple of things into light that this particular, we talked about, things such as, Joe Biden and, what he's doing for the community and so forth and so forth. Well, it just so happens that his Attorney General Garland is the one who's actually bringing forth this fight. It just so happens that the Attorney General that was in the office beforehand, Mr. Attorney Bill Barr, actually declined he declined a plea that they were actually trying to do for Chauvin, and he actually decided, he said, well, it needs to be done on the local level. And so there was a plea. Furthermore, there actually has been multiple times where the federal government has actually, has come into play. Back in 91, during the Rodney King fight, the federal government went into play. Back in 2015, when the Mother Emanuel had the shooting of the 9 Black individuals in the church, and back in 2017, when the young woman was actually protesting because of hate crime and she was run over in Charlottesville. So the federal government has actually got into place a couple of times during this time frame. The NAACP has stated that this is a good start, but active reform is needed. The last thing I wanted to break up about this situation is that about a couple of weeks before that, by a slim margin of 51 to 49, the young lady by the name of Vanita Gupta became an associate attorney general, literally the first person of color to be actually made an associate attorney general. It has been for a very long time a civil rights attorney. She will be over the actual civil rights litigation and department. She will oversee that entire department. A woman of color. Now, she's not African American, but she is classified as a woman of color, and she will be overseeing that. Someone who has been in civil rights litigation for quite some time. The reason why I bring all this up is because based on what we see, based on the work that's being done behind the scenes by President Biden to put people in place to make sure like things are happening, do we see, gentlemen, some type of initiative or resolve being brought to play? And are we moving in the right direction based on what we're seeing from the federal level, as well as what our president is doing to try to make sure he's putting people in place to fight this? Do we see, based on what we see going on with Derek Chauvin, some glimpse of hope coming down the pipeline?
I do. I actually was the one, I think I've submitted that Garland story last week about him commissioning the probe in the Minneapolis police precincts or what have you. For me, I really, really hope that the Justice Department takes this case as far as it can go. I hope that, they reconvict Chauvin and convict all the rest of them 3 jokers. I hope that the other case that's pending against Chauvin about the 17-year-old boy neck that he kneeled on in 2017 or some 2018, whatever that year was, 14 happened. I hope that, hits the fan and he gets convicted for that, because I feel like if they take this as far as it can, this will set an example, hopefully, for all the rest of these, I don't want to say that word, knuckleheaded, I'll say knuckleheaded police officers across the nation or what have you. So if this is successful, hopefully this will just be a domino effect to just enlighten officers that operate in this behavior, in that spirit of hatred, that you need to go ahead and pull back or leave the force and find something else to do or what have you, because this is just not where you need to be right now, because there's some highly tremendous consequences that are heading your way in the event that you choose to do this again. Furthermore, I also feel that, I know we talked about just police reform ideas that could possibly assist in molding that better or pushing it in a better direction. I truly feel that we need to hit these officers in their pockets. These police officers need to take out insurance when they get hired. These police forces or these unions, they need to pay whenever there are wrongful deaths committed. Not these cities, not these other things that are giving families money when they've had wrongdoings done. These officers and these precincts and unions need to pay for them this $28.7 million, $13.5 million settlements themselves, because once you hit these officers in their pockets and you get a knucklehead like Derek Chauvin, you got $28.7 million on your head, it's gonna be like, oh shit. The next officer will be like, well, I ain't got that money, so I really can't afford to be killing nobody right now. So I really think that these cities or whoever, they, in terms of police reform, they need to start hitting these officers and these unions and these precincts in their pocket, hit them in their pocket.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I do think that it's going in the right direction. I think that they're going to make an example out of this case for people knowing that if crimes like this are committed again in the future, that this, what's going to happen. So I do believe this is going to happen. It's going in the right direction. I really do.
And I would say, for me, like, it's not just this isolated incident. Back to Vince's point, I know DeAndre asked, is there a glimpse of hope? For me, justice will look like us not even having to go through this process, because no one was ever murdered in the first place. And so it is very important that this gets addressed holistically in a way that sends not only a message that we are no longer standing for this, but that you will be taken care of, you know, if this does happen. So I just don't want us to get caught up in just Derek Chauvin, but more so the bigger picture of what this represents for all of us. And I think that's why he tried to have the trial, like he wanted to go for a mistrial or some trial or something like that because of the, I guess, the political and the social, I guess, ramifications of this case and how he felt it contributed to him not having a fair case. But at the end of the day, you can't separate this instance from the racism in America, because this is what racism in America looks like. This is exactly how it manifests itself. And so I want us to get from a place of feeling like once this officer gets convicted, that's justice. This is not justice. Justice is George Floyd being here today, Breonna Taylor being here today. That's what justice looks like. And so for the other George Floyds, because they do exist and they are out there, there are Black men who will be cast off to the side and said, just because you were on drugs, you deserve to die. There will be other Breonna Taylors out there who are just chilling, relaxing after a hard day of working for our city. And they will be told that their life doesn't matter because, you know, they were associated with the wrong people. So we have to make sure that we destigmatize what it means to be Black. And we have to do a good job of that also in our own community as well, because we are some of the worst culprits of stigmatizing what it means to be Black in terms of if you do X, then you should expect Y and Z might happen. So we have to make sure that we take a holistic look at this thing and say, listen, it's not right from the beginning to the end. And in order for us to send that message, we all have to stand together and make sure that we're firm on that messaging.
You know, I agree. You guys said a whole lot. We're getting ready to transition to CJ's topic of the week, which is really talking about one of his favorite television programs, the third season of FX Exposed. But before we go into that, you know, again, I do firmly believe, and like Dr. Wilson said, you know, I mentioned last week that police officers should have insurance just like doctors. So if in the event during the course of their work, they cause an injury to someone, whether it's a car, whether it's anything, their insurance is going to cover it. And that needs to be provided to them. They pay for that out of their checks, like we pay for our health insurance out of our checks, a small portion of it, and it gets tracked and monitored with them. And when you have an infraction against you, your insurance premiums go up and the amount of money you have to pay go up. And that is a major deterrent and something that I think will definitely cause things to look differently. But I do believe that the amount of money, like those lawsuits, need to be against the cities, because the cities also have to have a level of culpability and responsibility as well, so that we know that the families of innocent victims are going to receive compensation. Because Derek Chauvin ain't got no money. He ain't got no money. You know, he can't pay no money to anybody's family. He can't, at this point, poor Derek can't pay any money, you know, to his own. So again, this is a beautiful point by Dr. Woods before we go into discussing Pose season 3, is that the huge amount of money given to the family of George Floyd, had there not been a loss of life for George Floyd, that money could have easily been used to benefit the social services that could have helped undo some of the damage of systemic racism that caused George Floyd in the first place.
Tax dollars.
Yep, and right here, you're right. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take some time and it's going to take some work to get our justice system fixed. I do believe that we are on the right track, but every time we make progress, there is counter progress made against us. So we have to be careful of that, and that's why messaging matters and the message and the work matters. And Rodney adding in, the man is a joke. You didn't know that George Floyd was high off drugs when you had your knee on his neck. I hope he doesn't ever see the sunshine again. And I think, Rodney, you echo what all of us feel, and we all hope as well regarding Derek Chauvin. Many people hope that this show will see the light of day again, although it's going to be off the air in just 8 more poorly written episodes. Go ahead, CJ, and tell us about Pose season 3.
So season 3, the finale of the Janet Mock and Ryan Murphy show that hit the TV stations 2 years ago, is in its final season. And I brought this up because it's getting a lot of talk about whether the show should have been canceled. A lot of people are not really liking the first couple episodes that have been aired already. I think it's a great show. I think it's an amazing show, and I think I would want to see more of this. And I hope that this show spins off to something else. I think a lot of people on the show are great actors and actresses, and I really want to see them, you know, use their talents in other platforms. and a possible spinoff. So I wanted to bring this to the show tonight to get everyone's opinion on, are they here for the season finale? Do they want to see more? Is anyone here for a spinoff? What do people think about the first few episodes? Is it a no? Is it a go? What are your thoughts?
It's tough for me to watch. Like, I mean, it was tough for me to watch last season. It's the height of the AIDS epidemic. Uh-oh, can you hear me?
We hear you. I just can't get. I mean, the show is so horrible. I can hear you.
I don't. Yeah, it's like the height of the AIDS epidemic, and I guess ballroom culture is something that I've not been privy to. So it was interesting the first season to learn more about ballroom culture, to learn about houses and things like that. And it's been good to see the stories of LGBTQ plus people be amplified on a national platform, so that it is there and it can be documented. However, it's hard for me to watch people dying every episode, just personally. And my friends and I talked about it. That was the time, and that was what was happening. It was reality, and they're being true to what the reality was in that time. But it is like we talked a few weeks ago about them, and about how Marseille Martin was saying that she wouldn't be showing Black trauma on TV. For me, this is gay trauma, and it's difficult for me to watch. It definitely has a place. I know that it is entertaining for me, and it's good to see so many trans people being put to work, and to see this whole, phenomenon to have it unveiled, because for a lot of people, if you don't know, you just don't know. So it's good to see that. And I just wonder what this could look like, or what else we could show to amplify, the LGBTQ plus experience, and how they could build off of Pose, maybe a spin-off of some sort that is less gory. I don't know.
There is representation matters, and I'm thankful to have representation of the trans community on a large platform like FX. The issue that I have with the program is the level of the quality of its writing and the quality of its acting isn't something that I think is well done. That's a personal opinion, but I know that it's popular. It has not done well in the ratings. I did my research because I wanted to make sure I verified my facts. Every episode has been a continuous decline. The show is not doing well. It has a cult following and it has its supporters, but viewing wise, ratings wise, it's not doing well. It's
about $500,000
with people. You said what happened?
About $500,000 per episode.
You are accurate. I actually pulled that information, and you're correct. It's about 500,000 viewers per episode, and this shows it's continuous, like the amount of drop in viewership, thus far for the season. The thing that I agree with you. Like, there's a brand new show coming out on Amazon Prime called Underground. I love the book Underground by Colson Whitehead, one of my favorite writers, possibly the best Black male fiction writer living in America today. He is. I will say that he is the best that writer alive, Black male writer alive today. Definitely, he may be the best writer alive today. That is a Black male, period. I read the book Underground, love the book Underground, but I'm not going to be able to watch 8 episodes of slavery abuse. I'm not able to handle. So I agree with you about the trauma. I can't watch it.
For me, I think that's one of the things that when you have a lot of productions, television series, or even movies, if you will, that are like period pieces, once that period is over, there's really not much more else to say unless a spinoff is created in the event that the visionary of the production wants a spinoff. To me personally, I feel that this production Pose probably would have worked better in the confines of a streaming service, of Hulu or of a Netflix. Have one of those companies sort of produce it, just like Little Fires Everywhere. We just got that one solid season, or certain series, you get 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and that's it, or what have you. I think a lot of times we do get attached to these things that, again, the visionary may not even have foreseen it to go this far. Case in point, Ryan Murphy, if you look at his track record, a lot of his highly successful productions did come to an end. Glee, eventually came to an end. There was nothing more to say. Nip Tuck eventually came to an end. There's nothing more to say. I dare say his longest running production is American Horror Story.
Horror Story,
that's because the way it's imagined, it can go in many, many different directions. But with those and the HIV pandemic and the ballroom scene, it's like once you sort of establish those storylines and sort of recreate that history or what have you, where else can it go? You get what I'm saying? So I guess that's my thoughts behind it.
I would have to agree with Rodney, just because a lot of people don't know, that time when everything was going on, when the HIV/AIDS pandemic happened. And you're right, nowadays they have so many different medications to prevent it. People could take PrEP, things like that, things that were not, irrelevant at that time or even discovered at that time. So I do think it's important that they are showing that. So for people who don't know about that time and era and what it was like to live with it at that time and where it came from to where it is now, I think that piece is great. And I think people that are involved in the ballroom scene, I think it's also good for them to get more exposure and to learn more about the origin of it. I mean, even though there is a documentary called Paris is Burning, which is pretty much what Pose is, just made into a series, was another documentary that came out a long, long time ago that kind of explained the ballroom scene and how it was, created.
I think when I think about what Zach is saying about the writing, and I think about what CJ is saying is pertaining, and Rodney is saying about the exposure and everything else, I guess if I even look at it from a different perspective, what I think I'm noticing, especially because of the fact that people within the LGBTQ community always feel like that the community is left out of the narrative, left out of talk. I felt like at the end of the day, them putting something on air, they may not even know how long at the end of the day that it was actually going to go. They didn't maybe know how long it was actually going to expand. But the fact that the LGBT community was able to actually say, listen, we have something that we can put out there and let people know that we are here, let people know that we have something going on. And maybe the writing, if you will, wasn't necessarily the conversation piece. Like, it talked about literally, when you look at Pose, you may not like it, you may not love the case may be, but there are many aspects that many people see in themselves. You see family community, you literally see people who were ostracized from their families, who literally found solace in these, in these families, in these groups. You see people who are scared to come out the closet and actually have to deal with these things. You see people who are literally having to fight and deal. There's still people to this day who still don't get medication and still have to hide their medication or calls. There's still many aspects that people see within themselves. So we us educated folk may look at it and say, listen, the writing is bad and everything else. But to that average person watching TV, they may say, you know what? I see myself in this show. I see myself every day in this, and that's the life I live. And guess what? Some of these, especially a lot of these older elder gay men and women who are living these lives and say, you know what? I finally have someone who appreciate the sacrifices that I made on TV. And so I have to still look at it from a space of someone finally sees us, someone finally sees me. And now, we may go off the air, but at least we got our story told. And so it's great that, we can talk about the writing and everything else. But at the end of the day, sometimes, as we talked about last week, sometimes it's just the visibility and representation that we actually see. And so I commend the writers of Pose and the people of Pose for putting it out there and at least trying to make the narrative so that people also broke the narratives of what they think about trans people, about gay individuals and families in general who are a part of the gay community. So I applaud them.
We applaud the effort. CJ and Vince, I see that you guys unmuted, or if not, I'll transition into another effort that we are ready to applaud.
Well, I will say just really quickly, just on a general sense of things, if the fans really, really want any series to continue and you make enough noise and you remain passionate behind it, it is not unheard of for another network or another production company to pick it up. We saw it with The Game. The Game was once on UPN. BET picked that thing right back up and they had a good 3-4 seasons right after that. Sister. Once it got canceled, Disney picked that thing up. They did a little closeout thing at the end of that. So, and so on and so forth. So I think the power of fandemonium could work in this instance in the event that the fans really don't want to see it go. But I do also agree with everybody that it was groundbreaking. These stories definitely needed to be told and they should continue to be told as well. But, if the community and the fans want it, like, hey, keep making some noise and somebody will hopefully pick it up.
I agree. I do want to see, like Candy said here, greater representation. But I want to see it. I do want to see it done well. I'm a huge fan of the programs on OWN. I would love to see someone take a piece of work and give us an artistic representation that is well written, well directed, well produced, and that tells the story wholly. That is just my opinion. But I do agree with you also, Dr. DeAndre, that the value of the representation certainly makes a difference. It's been stated throughout that some, I think Jason here said that it may be an issue of people need to see this to understand what life was like then. Do we feel that people needed to hear this to understand what R&B music was like then from girl groups? On Saturday, and I just want to go on record, I'm going to actually make my face big. My name is Zachary Kirk. I'm Dr. Zachary Kirk. And I actually picked this topic. You have seen me for week after week after week after week after week pick political topics. But this week, I selected this versus. Not because I care a great deal about either of these artists, but I wanted to do something different just for you. Now, back to the main point here. Did we watch this versus battle between these two famous 1990s girl groups? And what were your thoughts? I really want to know, gentlemen. I have some opinions. What do you think?
I was definitely here for the verses. I don't think that SWV should have went against Xscape. SWV definitely has more hits than Xscape. But it was still good to see the two ladies come and celebrate each other. They enjoyed each other. They sung with each other. They interacted with each other. I think it was a great versus. I just don't think that Xscape should have went against SWV. I would have rather see like SWV with like In Vogue or something, not Xscape, honestly. But the ladies looked great. They sounded great, and I was here for
it. So for me, it was sort of like battle of the young aunties versus battle of the old aunties. That's legit how it was for me. I'm sorry. But all in all, I really enjoyed the battle. Y'all know I'm an R&B fanatic. I love R&B music. I think that every generation here needs to know these songs. They need to know these voices. And it was just so refreshing to know, like, wow, in the 90s, people really could sing. Wow, groups existed. Wow, people could actually hold a note in 3-part harmony and not go flat and not go sharp. Wow, people actually know how to have showmanship. Wow, people actually know how to engage with the crowd. Wow, wow. Like, it was just very refreshing, because when you look at a lot of this, especially these newer girl groups, if you will, in the past 2, 3, 4 years that's come out, it's like, no, not from what I grew up around. Y'all can't even hold a nickel to what we saw on Saturday night or in their prime, or even with now, because I still think that with both groups, they sound good. I think they still sound good, if you will. So yeah, I love the interaction with them all. Coco, I know she caught a lot of flack with why she was sort of looking uncomfortable and upset at the beginning of the show. Apparently, outside of her hotel room, a woman was shot fatally. And the day of versus, and so she had an anxiety attack, just that trauma that she was going through in the midst of the battle. So she said if it wasn't for her son and her team, she wouldn't even came out.
But I want to know, does Coco is she a resident of Atlanta, or she lived somewhere else and was visiting?
I think she lives in
VA, right?
Yeah, I think she lives in Virginia, but they had it at where did they have it? Opera or
this is
I don't know where.
In Atlanta. You know, I know that Versus has surely made some money this year, and I know that Triller has some money. Well, what hotel they put her in? Like, where do they have Coco staying? But them folks be getting shot outside, because I saw that too. She said it was blood everywhere, and I'm like, dang, what they put?
I mean, well, Zach, I think anyone can get shot anywhere. It could be a nice neighborhood, it could be a bad neighborhood. I mean,
you can get shot in Buckhead where you live, CJ. I know that. I'm just saying, what hotel is this?
Don't say that, Zach. Don't say that on this live.
You can get shot in Buckhead or in Decatur. Either one.
or Stone Mountain. Okay, it doesn't matter, you know.
Oh God, Jesus!
Even to what Rodney just said, I guess they did at the Fox Theater. I am very, very just proud of how Versus has increased their production value. Like the set looked really good. The camera angles, the lighting, the wardrobe around it, like it really came off as a concert. The only thing that I do not want Versus to really enlarge, if you will, is the amount of fans and supporters in the audience. All that hoorah and hoopla happening in the background was very distracting for me. They need no fans in the audience because they just get shut up. That was a lot.
I agree with you. And it was funny too how you said earlier how it made you, you know, value and appreciate R&B music from the 90s. Because even Coco made a joke. She's like, "What is that stuff they use? Auto-tune?" She made a joke about it because she's like, "I don't even know what that is." But Coco sang, Latasha sang, like, I mean, they all sang, they did their thing. Again, I would have just rather see them against Vogue because I just feel like, I mean, it made me realize what songs Xscape have that I forgot about. But SWV definitely bodied them with this Versus for sure.
Let's go back because I got two things to say, and I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah, go ahead and tell us, Darius.
Vince, you said that wow, they can sing and not be flat or sharp. I heard both things. Okay, now I don't know. Maybe it was Dr. Morrow in my ear telling us that we need to raise the pitch or that we were going sharp, and sharp isn't better than being flat. But I heard both of them. That's number one. So maybe they could have used a little bit of that auto-tune that y'all talked about them not having or them never using. But the other thing is, y'all worried about SWV versus Xscape. I felt like Tiny should have been worried about T.I. and Tiny versus the state of Georgia, the state of New York, the state of Florida, and everywhere else that these people are coming out making these accusations about them. I just felt like it was in very poor taste for you to be sitting up there singing these songs when you know there are all these allegations swirling around, and y'all have not directly addressed these allegations, but y'all sit up here and you want to sit up here and have your red bottoms on and your long ponytail and your diaper booty, like somebody said in the comment section. Not that I'm body shaming anybody or anything, but if you bought it, flaunt it. But I just felt like it was a bit much for me. I felt like it was poor timing and that they should have respected the fact that those victims are, you know, the victims are doing what they're doing. I don't feel like the other women should have been so willing to give platform to Tiny during these allegations because it sent a very inappropriate message about how victims are treated in this state, in this nation.
So do you think she shouldn't have just been on the Versus?
I think they should have waited. I don't think that if one of y'all went out there and did some crazy shit, I would not be sitting up here with y'all on a Monday night. I would not. I'm just saying.
These allegations have been going on since once last summer, right?
Whenever it's been going on. I know up until a month ago, 2 more accusers came forward. It's just too much.
And then I also feel like maybe they're not talking about it because maybe they feel like they didn't do nothing wrong.
CJ, okay, you can believe what you want to believe.
I don't know. Like, I don't know everything. I'm just saying, like,
what I'm saying, whether or not it happened, I would not give platform to someone who's going through that. Just like I wouldn't give my vote to someone who is going through federal. You can blame Timberland and freaking. I'm not blaming anyone. What I'm saying is, as a member of that group, I would not have been on that stage. And Candy has been vocal about the fact that, you know, I just feel like, you know, we just gotta wait and see how everything play out. So do that. So wait and see how everything plays out, but don't sit up there and give platform.
Who's to say that? Hold on, but who's to say that they didn't wait and see how it played out? What you may think and what you may perceive may be too fast for you may have already been handled on the back end and has not been communicated to the open public yet.
If it has not been communicated to the open public, then it's not been handled.
No. And I feel like to your credit,
how the court system works.
Because just like they snatched Nene down from that Xscape tour when she made those
comments without skipping a beat.
Exactly, and I say
it was like move down.
And I say that to say we know that Candy is very adamant about doing everything with a good name and good conscience and not being around any type of shenanigans. 1,000%. But you know that. Do you know that?
I said, but not that.
But do you know that?
I know that she got on Watch What Happens Live as soon as those accusers came out and said that she was in support of Tiny no matter what.
That's what she said.
Roll the tape.
I'm asking. I'm asking.
I'm just saying they could wait. They could have waited for this to blow over. That's all I'm saying. Versus is not time sensitive. Either way, they could have waited for this to blow over. I feel like it was selfish. I feel like they should not have given this large a platform to these people as they were going through these things. I feel like it's very insensitive to the victims, and they're celebrating someone who is literally on trial for sexual assault of dozens of people.
That's what I said to you. I said, yes, they could have said no, but you have to start with the people who actually formed the verses, which is Swiss Beats and Timberland. Why would they even go to them asking them to do the verses if they knew that one of the members is on trial for all these accusations? Why would they even
I feel like when you making that statement, it's
they are the ones who
you're painting everybody involved into verses like they're complicit into doing this. Like
that's exactly how I feel.
It's insensitive, but what I'm saying is I feel like you are coming from, not saying that you're wrong from the position that you're coming from. I definitely think that you're right, but at the same time, I highly doubt that all of these moving parts in this entire production are all insensitive to these victims and did not do their due diligence and research and just completely bypassed everybody. I
feel that way, Vince. So you know when I won't feel that way, when everything is said and done and said. Then, you know, if they have figured out that these people have been found innocent and they've been vindicated, then you go forth and do something like this. But while these charges are pending and while these accusations are still rolling in less than 30 days ago, it is very insensitive, and it sends a tone of supporting someone who could have possibly done this. Now, whether or not they did that, that's yet to be determined. But as for the verses, it is not like this was a presidential election with a set date. They could have easily waited until these trials.
I'm just trying to figure out when you have any, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but especially with the T.I. and Tiny situation, when a lot of these sexual allegations come up or what have you, like outside of them, of course, you know, saying that no, I was not involved and stuff like that. Even when the court cases or the allegations are put to rest, do we ever really know? Do we ever see T.I. and Tiny ever with all these allegations have a press release in front of the Ritz-Carlton and say this is false and I did it, and the courts have put it to shame? I don't think anybody's ever done that. So it's like, so my question to you, Derek, is when is the time? If we know that these
people told you when the time is. I literally said when the time for me is, the time for me it will be when this has been tried and it has been put to rest. That's when the time would be for me. Now, as for you, if you're okay with sitting up there watching someone who's been accused by people, and if they're lending their platform to those people, that is completely up to them. That's
Rodney just made asked a valid question. Are you canceling Xscape music now, like they did R. Kelly? Are you canceling Xscape and T.I.?
I can't cancel them.
I'm saying T.I. or Xscape.
I'm not a T.I. fan, so I can't cancel T.I.
Okay.
Well, I think this has been a really strong, robust discussion. So, you know, I picked the topic and I have said very little, but it's not a whole lot to say. I'm going to say this. What's really great is that on this live, we have 4 people who actually know music and who are involved in the musical world. You guys with the Glee Club together. You managing artists, CJ, Vince, you are recording artists. I'm 99% sure I'm an undiagnosed tone deaf. So I don't know what the hell y'all talking about with pitch notes and all that bullshit. That's not what I know. But let me tell you what I do know. I do know what I see in here, and I was very pleased with Xscape. You can sit here all day, and I don't really care who you may say won. I feel as though they did a great job. I like Candy Burris. I feel as though she did a great job representing herself and her brand. And I enjoyed watching this versus battle. And that is just my, untrained ear and, can't carry a note or a tune, can hardly. I mean, shit, my voice isn't even pleasant to listen to.
Zach, I think you know good music, though. I think you know good music, and I think you know when music is good. And I think Xscape did a great job. I'm just saying, as far as body of music, SWV definitely bodied them. Like, SWV won.
But I agree it sounded bad. Vince made a very specific statement about flat and sharp. That's all I addressed. I never said anyone said
Hold on.
Yeah, they both sound good. I'm just saying SAB has more hits.
Hold on. Now let's not really dissect and deeply assess what I said. You know what I meant. What I said in its totality is, if we get any one of these newer little girl groups to come up there and attempt to do what SWV and Xscape did. Yes, there were some iffy little moments or what have you, but these new folk couldn't even hold a pin to the vocalizations that happened.
Do we even have new girl groups?
Same.
I look. So CJ, what you just asked.
Now, about BV hits, I read this.
Your hour pass must be up at the hotel, Vince. You going in and out, baby.
I read this. He's saying Xscape was going to have to playing house. So
Vince, you got to refresh your pass. It's going in and out.
Refresh what?
Your Wi-Fi pass at the hotel. Your statement was going in and out. We couldn't hear it.
I know that many people really rode hard. Let me tell you something. I get it. I knew that I was going to face some criticism for that because I looked at Twitter. I saw what people said. I went into this expecting SWV to do a blowout, but their attitudes and their countenance and just their opening sound, it just wasn't as good. You could tell that Xscape prepared. They came ready to give a show to their fans, regardless of what they used to do and how they used to sound on Saturday night. When it was Saturday night, right? Saturday night. In the beginning of this performance, even though I thought SWV was going to be a blowout, Xscape did a better job. They did a better job.
And they must have performed.
Did SWV get together in the second half? Of course they did. Can they sing better? Of course they did. But I looked at the whole night to say that this was won by Xscape, and that's just I hate to say.
But you're gonna go when they win. You're going based on their catalog of music, and SWV has more hits and better songs than Xscape does.
I went based on what I saw last night. I didn't go.
You're going based on the entertainment. The verses is based on the catalog.
But that's what you just said. You know good music. That's the same thing.
I went based on what I looked at and saw and heard on that night. Because in my car, when I was catching up on their hits, I'm like, there's no way SWV isn't going to kill Xscape. I liked SWV a whole lot more than Xscape in the 90s, although I was a very, very, very young man. But on Saturday night, I have to give it to Xscape. But with that being, thank you so much for agreeing with me. Nobody else does. It's me and you alone in the world. It's me and you against the world like Tupac back in the day, another 90s singer.
Oh, you know about Tupac, though. Go ahead.
So go ahead, Darius, and give us, because one thing that we do on this live cast every single Monday night is we celebrate Black History 365 days. Darius, who are we honoring tonight?
You know what? I'm feeling so blessed tonight, and I'm feeling very generous. And so instead of me doing the Black History Month, I'm going to give the gift of the Black History Month for tonight to my dear friend, DeAndre. Come on, Dr. Pickett.
So he's passing it over to me. Thank you, Mayor Keisha, for passing the baton to me. I appreciate you. While all that was going on that evening, the Black History moment that I wanted to talk about was something that happened that morning. Atlanta lost an amazing individual in the city of Atlanta, Clarence Terrell Martin, C.T. Martin, who served the city of Atlanta for 30 years, served under Maynard Jackson and others. And C.T. Martin was instrumental with helping integrate some of a particular segregated neighborhood. What happened was the mayor at that time I'm trying to get my notes. The mayor at that time was sweet Jesus, and I just lost my thought. The mayor at the time, Ivan Allen. So the mayor at the time, Ivan Allen, actually wanted to put up barricades in an area so they can keep Black people out of actually moving into those areas where white people lived. What happened was the courts called it unconstitutional and asked them to move it. What Martin did is he and his daughter went to move in that community. And they actually helped desegregate that actual community by moving that and actually started the process of actually going in there and getting more Black people to move in. So he began to break down those barriers. He was known as the dean of the actual city council, and he served up until 2017 when he decided to run for city council president. He has a a recreation center name behind him, and he really did do amazing work for the city for the last 30 years. So we salute and honor the life of C.T. Martin, and we speak his name.
Bottoms out.
Bottoms out and CT Martin up. What a great time. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. We value you, appreciate you. Share the live cast. If you have friends out there and you want to watch it again, watch it with them, share it, do a watch party. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, thank you guys for joining. We will catch you all next week.